gather round and feast your eyes on the amazing Pennywise the Dancing Clown! The Dancing Clown!
Give us what we want, and we go away. Hank Grogan.
Show me the bow.
The Dancing Clown! The Dancing
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my IT Welcome to Derry episode 7 trailer video. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs references here, obviously dealing with the origin of Bob Gray, the original Pennywise the Clown that we saw briefly during episode 6. So if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. The other big reason to show us all these flashbacks to Bob Gray as Pennywise in 1908 is to give us more Ingrid as Periwinkle the Clown when she was a little girl too, to set up her present-day storyline. The episode is titled The Very Ominous Black Spot, which is a reference to what's happening in present day with the Legion of White Decency coming for Hank Grogan at the actual Black Spot while the kids are still there. Although we do see some scenes during daylight, so like things spill into the events of daylight, we will see how the kids wind up making it out, as well as Hallorann, who we know has to survive, which is also why we see him tripping in the woods, which might be our path to the 1908 flashbacks. There are a couple different perspectives that they've taken to do the different flashbacks, but this is just a continuation of the events of the 1908 flashback that we saw in previous episodes, which we were seeing Shaw's perspective. Just starting at the beginning of the trailer footage and going through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs and WTF moments, we actually start with Hallorann looking like he's escaped the Black Spot, but he's still a little bit drunk, still out of his senses, so he actually might start experiencing some dead people around this area. We will see how he reacts to the actual Black Spot event itself when it fully goes down, because they do seem like they set it on fire. They mix in the voiceover from the Carnival Barker from 1908, who's introducing Pennywise the Dancing Clown, Bob Gray, and we know it's him because we see the Pennywise cap and the actual makeup on him. His face looks very different from actual Pennywise the It entity, similar to the old picture that Ingrid had in her attic of her father. We see him come out, do his performance for the kids, dance around, and you notice the dance is similar to the dance that Pennywise does for Beverly in present day, and some of his moves, the way he turns his head, just his gestures, are similar to the ones that Pennywise the It entity winds up using when he takes his form.
And you brought a friend.
One of the other key differences you'll notice here is that all the little kids here during the 1908 timeline seemingly love him, like they're attracted to this, they love it, and you see this red balloon floating in the background. But it doesn't look like Pennywise's red balloons that he creates and manifests all over the place. It looks like an actual regular red balloon that somebody created at the carnival and gave to a little kid. There are a couple other It Easter eggs in the background too, though. You notice all these balloons behind him come down from the roof. This seems similar to the beginning of It Chapter 2, where like massive swath of red balloons just manifest, but it's the It entity making that happen that time. So it seems like after the It entity chose to take Bob Gray's Pennywise the Dancing Clown form here, he started using his theatricality as a way to attract more children, but also by the events of present day, he also did it to taunt people as well, as if he was starting an actual performance like Bob Gray would do when he was actual Pennywise the Dancing Clown during 1908. Like the It entity has this very dramatic flair. You also notice the little hand that reaches out of the window when he walks out of the door. That's meant to be Periwinkle, his daughter, who is Ingrid, we know, confirmed now. You notice that his clown outfit is similar to the one that the It entity manifests later. Then we go back to present day. Hallorann has another shining vision, and they go back to the Black Spot where you see the police chief and the other Legion of White Decency asking for Hank Grogan because they want to kill him. It seems like there's a big standoff, then we see Hallorann outside near one of the cars, so he does make it outside for some reason, or he just happens to be outside when the standoff is going down. And it's a little too blurry to see who the dead people behind him actually are, but it seems like there are a couple of dead people here. Usually what that means is they died around this area here at some point in the past. Back during 1908, inside their car, we've actually seen inside their car during It Chapter 2 when Beverly gets the vision of the It entity and it shows himself as Bob Gray. We see a version of that, but it's actual Bob Gray, like living Bob Gray, with his daughter Ingrid in her periwinkle outfit, showing him part of her act too, with the horn that we saw her holding during the last Shaw flashback in the 1908 timeline earlier. If you couldn't tell, this is meant to be Bill Skarsgard as Bob Gray without the makeup. We just saw him in last week's episode. It was the same Bill Skarsgard doing the same voice. It wasn't meant to be the way the It entity actually sounds. It can sound or look like whatever it wants. Its actual true form is those 3 deadlights. So part of the idea is that when the It entity decided to start taking his form, he also started using Bob Gray's voice as well too. So the It entity sounds like Bob Gray, not the other way around.
You haven't saved any of them.
You also notice the bow that Ingrid does here as her periwinkle character is similar to the bows that the It entity does in present day as well too. The other reason I think they're showing so many scenes of Periwinkle in the past with her outfit on doing her performance for her father is to set up the end of the last week episode where she put her costume back on, and we'll probably see a version of her do her performance for the It entity in present day thinking that it is her father. I think what they're implying is that when the It entity started taking Bob Gray's form, he used his psychic powers to basically learn everything there was from his brain. So some of the tricks that the It entity then learned, some of the gestures he learned, was actually from Ingrid, and it was just Bob Gray remembering that. Like, this is actually pretty cool. I'm going to use this in the future when I mess with little kids. Back in present day, the Legion of White Decency actually sets the black spot on fire, and I think a bunch of people are meant to die during this, but we do know that a number of very important characters, like main characters, are not supposed to die yet. There are a couple plot reasons, plot armor saving some of the people that are inside here. Hallorann then seems like he's inside the black spot, holding Ronnie here like they're hugging each other, and the It entity is also inside the black spot, reaching out, asking for their hand, like, please, take my hand, I'll totally save you, and I totally won't eat you right after this. I think this is meant to be happening inside the black spot, so at some point Hallorann winds up inside while it's still on fire, maybe because he's trying to save the kids. And based on the way they ended last week's episode, it seems like what they were setting up is that Ingrid was putting her periwinkle costume back on. She is the anonymous tipster who called the police chief, who let them know where Hank Grogan was at the black spot, all for the purposes of setting up this augury-level event, thinking that it would bring her father back, when it's really bringing the It entity as Pennywise back looking like her father. So because episode 7 seems like it's going to culminate with the actual burning of the black spot, and we know that the It entity is inside here while it's on fire, while these people are here, I wouldn't be surprised if Periwinkle shows up outside while this is going down, like she is also here watching this go down, waiting to see the It entity, thinking that it's her father, so we will see if there's any kind of acknowledgement between the two of them. When we saw the flashback of her letting the It entity into her mind, that's what he meant. Open the door, let me inside, everything will be fine. Basically, he was parking himself in her brain. You have to remember he's a very powerful telepath, and his psychic powers are still active even when he's in hibernation, meaning that while she was running around between cycles here since the 1930s cycle, the It entity was still influencing her actions, whether or not she was actually able to see him. Based on the way she explained it to Lily, it sounds like she only actually sees him when the 27-year cycles are up and he's running around actually consuming people.
So I did what I had to see him again.
So theoretically, the black spot event here would be the first time she could potentially see him since the 1930 cycle. Everybody post all your death predictions in the comments below, like who do you think actually winds up dying during this particular episode? Because remember, it's the penultimate episode, there's only one after this. We will see if they save that giant mist Easter egg for the entire town for the actual finale. That might be from the finale. If you've not read the Stephen King Mist storyline or seen any of the Mist adaptations, the Mist is actually from the same todash darkness dimension that Pennywise originally came from. It's meant to be because of a tear between dimensions, so the mist just pours through, and all the monsters that wind up on planet Earth are monsters that just pass through the actual tear between dimensions. My assumption when it comes to that, though, is the mist itself is something that Pennywise does, or maybe it has something to do with Shaw trying to melt down one of the pillars. Probably has something to do with the different pillars, because remember, the It entity wants them to get rid of the pillars so that it can actually go outside of Derry at this point. But we do know at a certain point, it just starts using Derry as a sort of feeding ground and decides to stay there. Long before they decided to do this series where they started adding a bunch of extra canon that wasn't in the original It novels, part of the idea is that it just liked the easy life that it had here with Derry because it had total control, so it didn't really feel the need to actually go a bunch of other places. But on the show, the new lore that they added that was not in the books is that had the Native American tribe not put the 13 pillars up, then the It entity would have eventually consumed the entire world. So I think the idea at the end of this 1960s timeline, at the end of this season, because remember there's supposed to be multiple seasons, at the end of this season they can't completely defeat Pennywise because we know he doesn't die till the events of the It movies, so he has to survive for plot reasons. But it sounds like what they're setting up is that they are able to stop it from going past the bounds of Derry. They are still able to keep it inside Derry for some reason. There are a couple canonical workarounds to this. Remember, this is mostly meant to be canon to the It movies, not the It novel itself, because the movies are a little bit different from the novel. When the losers were kids during the first It movie, they were able to partially defeat it, not perma-kill it, but injure it enough that it was forced to go back into hibernation. That could be what they do at the end of this 1960s timeline, where they're able to injure it a little bit, enough so that it has to go back to ground and go back into hibernation to start another 27-year cycle. Everybody post all your reactions in the comments below. There's a whole bunch going on during the trailer footage, so if you spotted any Easter eggs or references that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. In my full episode 7 video, we'll post next week after they release it. And hopefully we'll get some more clues about what's going on with Season 2 in the 1930s cycle timeline that we're going to be spending that season during. I think the way they've talked about Season 2 and Season 3 is that we'd be spending most of our times during the different cycles. So like Season 2 would be the 1930s cycle, and then Season 3 would be more the 1908 cycle. There's a bunch of stuff coming up. We also have Stranger Things final season. I just did a big video for that. Click here for that video, and click here for all my Welcome to Derry episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.